Hi everyone, John here, All Miniatures Great and Small, and today I thought I'd do a list building video for my Soviets. I want to preface this video by saying that this list isn't designed as a ultra competitive list or anything like that, so if you're coming here for tournament advice, just general overview might help, but again, I'm not gearing this towards a tournament environment. I'm gearing it towards a more narrative environment. And that narrative environment is Jake and I have been playing a lot of Bagration games, and we have kind of a story behind the scenes going on. And this force will be used to attack the German defenses. And this force will be used in a Patreon battle. So if you do want to see this force actually in battle, please do check out our Patreon. I'll put it down in a link in the video description and pop it up on screen as well. So what is this? This is a basically a heavy self-propelled artillery regiment. So its core formation is this massive amount of heavy armor. Now I'm building to 100 points. So that's what we decided to play. In this 100 points I have an HQ of 1 IS-2. I have 3 basically batteries of 2 of ISU 122s and 1 of ISU 152s. And the 152s are probably going to be one of the most controversial inclusions in this list. They're more expensive than the 122, and I think they bring less to the table. Shorter ranged main gun, better firepower. It's like an auto firepower and direct fire, but you got to be a lot closer. So it's meant for taking out dug-in infantry and gun teams more than these guys, which are more multi-purpose. Their gun is basically the same gun that's in the IS-2, so they can do anti-tank in a pinch, no problem. Alright, so that's the primary part of my core formation. Also in the core formation is a hero unit of SMG. So basically it is like you have the SMGs plus a commissar in that group that gives them a 3-up motivation, which is very helpful while he's still alive. They're good for a couple of reasons, and we'll get back to that after we look at everything else on the list. We also have a unit of 76mm artillery. So I'm taking the artillery variant of this, not the tank-killing anti-tank version. Behind them we have 4 Su-76s. So basically almost the same gun that's in these, but that's in an armored chassis. And then we have a unit of 3 BA-64 armored scout cars, and then right there in the back we have a unit of, it's an observer scout car. Cards wise, I'm taking Lucky, Make Your Luck, and a Smokescreen. So Lucky obviously is not obviously if you don't know, but it's basically a reroll. You can reroll 1 die for the game. Make Your Own Luck is, instead of rolling a die, you just assume you get a 4. You've rolled a 4. So if you need, you have a 4-up firepower or a 4-up reserve or something like that you don't want to even roll the die and tempt fate, Make Your Own Luck is a great card for that. Then we have the Smokescreen, under the shadow of smoke. I forget the exact wording of it. But basically with that card, it lets me place a smokescreen in the setup phase, when you place your range-in markers, that lasts for essentially 2 turns. Now if you've watched some of our content before, I've used that smokescreen several times. It's very handy for the Soviets to negate some of that German long-range fire and get up. Now there are counters to that because you set up your smoke before your opponent sets up their forces. But it does let you screen off an area and potentially get your army a lot closer before the shooting starts, which can be very, very helpful for Soviets. So what is the reason why I picked all these synergy-wise? Well, my theme was I wanted to use a self-propelled heavy tank regiment. It's been a little while since I've done it. I bought some more, so now I've got 9 of these big giant things. So I've got 10 heavy tanks in this list. So that's really the core, and that's where most of the points are spent. So everything else is just kind of rounding out what I feel is the deficiencies that these guys have. So if I were to play something like a free-for-all or encounter where both you're attacking and defending, I wanted to have units that could potentially babysit objectives on my side of the board, my objectives. So that's one of the reasons to include the artillery guns. They are great in bombardment, but they also have AT-9 in direct fire. So they're not shabby. I mean, they're not frontline anti-tank guns, but in a pinch they'll do. And for 8 points for 4 of them, that's a pretty good deal. It's going to make things like Panzer IVs and Stugs think twice before they engage. It's still probably a win for the Stugs or Panzer IVs, but that's going to be a lot closer thing. The SMG infantry is kind of twofold. It can babysit an objective, but they can also move ahead and take enemy objectives. If these guys are moving towards an enemy objective, obviously your opponent has to deal with them, and if they're dealing with those guys, they're not dealing with these guys, right? So that's a kind of a dual purpose unit. They can defend, or they can go on the offensive pretty successfully. We also have a unit of 3 scout cars. They're just general utility. They're pretty inexpensive in the list, at 2 points for 3, and they can deny, they can drive up and potentially deny areas of ambush. They can provide spearhead. So there's a couple of uses for them. They're also a good way to get some machine gun fire down on the enemy, since I have a lack of machine gun fire everywhere else. Then we have the Su-76s back here. Those are basically a general utility unit. They, like I said, their guns pretty much have the same stats as the artillery, but they have the ability to move much easier and respond. So they can be used in the attack just as well as being used hanging back in defense. And then, last but not least, that, like I said, that observer back there is going to be essential, because potentially I have a lot of bombardments on the table. If I wanted to, I have 5 bombardments, because each unit of 3 can fire a bombardment. So each one of those 3 could fire a bombardment, those 76s and the ones in the back as well. So that's a lot of bombardment, so having an extra spotter is going to make that so much easier. Otherwise they're going to have to be self-spotting, or the HQ unit, the IS-2, is going to spot for them, and I'd rather have the IS-2 probably moving around and shooting stuff rather than just using its binoculars and spotting. So in theory, this unit can put out a lot of artillery bombardment. Even on the first turn, these guys won't be able to fire because of the cover of smoke card, but that's still 4 other potential bombardments that can go in. And I think that's got to be scary for anybody. They're not; those bombardments again aren't really going to threaten. They're not going to threaten tanks, but that's not what they're there for. They're to threaten everything else: gun teams, half tracks, infantry, and the like. So overall, again, this list comes to 100 points. I think I have a little bit of everything. Would I have loved to add more? Yes, I would have loved to have more infantry. I would have loved to take like a larger SMG company, like 15 stands or the 20 stands, but it's just so pricey. Once you're paying for these guys, it just it's a little prohibitive. So that's pretty cool. I'd also love to add a unit of T-34s, but again, price-wise, I'd have to sacrifice one of these units of 3. And I don't want to do that. I want my theme to be heavy artillery regiment, so that's where I want most of my points. So there you go, guys. That's basically a look at my thought process of building this 100-point battle. 100 point battle, 100 point force from the Soviet Bagration book. So I'm looking forward to getting this on the table and seeing how it performs, taking it up against Jake. Now, that battle will be available on Patreon again. Probably won't be released until the end of the month. However, it's something to look forward to if you guys want to check out Patreon. And of course, we have our regular YouTube battle report for December coming out around that same time. In that particular battle, though I'm not taking this list, I'm taking a T-34 battalion. So there you go, guys. I appreciate you watching. If you have any thoughts on this list, please do let me know down in the comments below. How would you change this list, keeping in mind that the theme is, you know, a heavy self-propelled artillery regiment? If you have 100 points, what would you guys do? What would you take? I'm curious. I had a lot of options, like taking planes and things like that, but I've been taking planes a lot, so I decided not to take them this time. But, you know, again, that's kind of into my thought process. Alright, guys, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give us a like and subscribe. Click that bell to receive a notification when we publish new content. Having you guys as subscribers and watching lets us continue doing what we're doing and bringing you guys great content. If you want to support the channel further, check us out on Patreon. You can also check us out at Facebook at All Miniatures Great and Small. And other than that, we appreciate you guys watching. As always, keep on wargaming.